What if you can neck a 50 cal down to a tiny 17 caliber bullet? Well, they call it the 17 Incinerator. This is highly impractical and dangerous, but people do it anyway, just to see if they can push this thing as far as they can. This thing can fly at 5 times the speed of sound, and they had to make a special barrel to shoot this thing. But not all neck-down cartridges are like this. For example, something more practical here is this classic 357 SIG neck down from a 10mm auto to shoot a 9mm bullet. They made it short and slightly buffed, and also slightly longer than a 40. SIG Sauer and this ammo company Federal came together to make this, to mimic the stopping power of the 357 mag, but making it for semi-automatic fed handguns. If you see what's available today, the 357 SIG can work in any guns made for 40 Smith & Wesson, and of course, only a barrel change is needed. Like a Glock 22 chambered in 40, swap the barrel and everything else stays the same. Ballisticians have been resorting to this engineering trick for hundreds of years. In layman's terms, you take an existing round and you up its knockdown power without redesigning the cartridge from scratch. So, bigger number, meaner sound, therefore it must hit harder, right? Well, the FBI actually tested it. They put it through all types of materials like windshield glass, car doors, literally anything a cop can encounter on the streets. So the round that looks this weird is actually a 9mm that costs twice as much, and you feel it in the chest when you shoot one. The only problem is that, for one, it's too stressful on parts and it's expensive, and over time it is becoming less and less popular compared to the 9mm. The next one is the 224 Bose. This crazy one here took a 10mm auto case and squeezed the mouth down to a 22 caliber bullet. The British actually came up this in the late 90s because NATO wanted a round that would defeat this armor based on the Chrysat standard. Long story short, there were 2 serious rounds competing back then, the 4.6 and the infamous 5.7, which ultimately meant that whoever needed it had to buy either the MP7 or the P90 and spend a bunch of money they weren't ready for. So they were like, well, we don't want new logistics or everything like that. How about we just keep the Glock, keep the MP5, and just change the barrel? They modded the MP5 to shoot the Buzz, but it was expensive and the market couldn't support it. It didn't make sense when talking about the cost. 22 Tuba and the Tuba 2. So this guy, Zachary Wayman, placed a very small 22 onto a massive neck-down 45 long Colt casing to see if a 22 can go way past its normal velocity. In fact, it could go as far as 2,300 feet a second in his Mutt rifle. Long story short, it never became a thing, and it was mostly an experiment. And then he also tried it on a neck-down 44 Magnum, and that was the Tuba 2. The rim version was using the 44 Magnum case, and the rimless one had the 45. The 17 Giraffe. This one is similar to the 17 BMG we saw earlier, but it has way less power, and it has a ridiculously long, thin neck all the way from here to here. And some of you may be asking, has anyone ever shot this for real? The short answer is no. This is strictly a novelty, a fudge around kind of project. It is not a commercial product, and you can't buy it. It has no practical use for anything at all. The 50 caliber Fat Mac. If you think the 50 BMG is already powerful enough, just wait, because this guy, Gail McMillan, took a massive 20mm Vulcan cannon case and necked it down to hold a standard 50 caliber bullet. This was meant to shoot ultra-heavy 50 caliber bullets at insane record-breaking speeds, like way over 3,400 feet a second, to hit something 1,000 yards away in competitions. But they had to build a custom rifle receiver for it and fired it. But the immense pressure was just too much, and it was a big no-no. It even stripped the threads right off the rifle barrels. The 22 250 Remington. This may look like your normal 223, but it's neck down to a tiny 22 caliber bullet that can fly roughly 12% faster and 20% more energy. It's basically a 223 on steroids to fly flatter. The light loads can even fly faster, and it's pretty much, I guess it's the craftier cartridges. But what it actually does on soft body targets is hard to show people, because there's nothing left to point a camera at. If you shoot a prairie dog with this and all you see is a pink cloud where the animal is standing, and then there's nothing at all. Completely vaporized. That's because the bullet is thin-jacketed and moving fast enough that it comes apart inside the first 6 inches and then dumps everything it has at once. On a small coyote, it vaporizes the organs instantly. So you can say it's more of a hunting round to better handle wind drift if you are hitting something past 400 yards. You wouldn't blow through boxes of these on paper for fun unless you got money to throw away. 9x25 Dillon. Some people say this is the most insane self-defense round ever made. This is essentially a 10 mil case, neck down to 9 millimeters, just like the 357 SIG. The only reason it exists is to meet the major power factor requirement for action pistol shooting. So think of it as just a simple scoring guideline to reward the shooter with more points for shooting guns with more recoil, even if the hits aren't perfect. The idea here is to have enough gas at the muzzle to make the muzzle brake actually do its job to shoot flatter. If you ever shot one, the fireball is huge, and you feel the push against your face from the next lane over. And the concussion that makes everyone stop what they were doing and turn around to look. It's kind of crazy to think that's what people think it's the trick to shoot flatter. In fact, you can just get good with the fundamentals, but that's its own thing in the competition world. If you ask somebody, what is this really for? They will tell you it's still a fairly obscure round that maybe 3 out of every 10 people know about, and it can be a hunting round against predators like a 357 mag and a semi-auto handgun. 22 Remington Jet. This round is a 357 Magnum revolver case tapered down to a 22, and this is not the 22 long rifle most of you are probably thinking about. The main reason they came up with this was to build a true high-velocity centerfire cartridge, but with a rimfire-style casing for revolvers, so that it can shoot similar to what it can do out of a rifle barrel. And that's roughly 2,400 feet per second out of a revolver in theory. But since the revolver leaks gas out of the gap in front of the cylinder, and it's not getting most of the performance out of it, at most it's getting way under just 2,000 feet per second. So while they were ambitious designing this to bridge the gap between a rimfire 22 and larger caliber centerfire revolvers, the steep shoulder taper of the bottleneck design tend to make the casing right here to slide backward. Do that a couple of times and the cylinder will not turn anymore, and you got to take it back to the shop to fix it. It was a fun idea, but it was too difficult to maintain the velocity consistently in a revolver, so it's more of a niche round rather than widespread commercial adoption. 220 Swift. This is the first commercially available factory cartridge on Earth that can break 4,000 feet a second. That's almost Mach 4, 4 times the speed of sound. And it's almost twice as fast as a F-16 flying on full afterburner. It's even faster than the 22-250 Remington that we just talked about. This one takes the 6mm Lee Navy case and necking it down to load a 22 caliber bullet. It's mostly a long-range varmint hunting round, and it flies extremely flat and also has a deeper penetration. And inside 300 yards, you put the crosshair on the animal and pull because the bullet gets there before gravity gets a say, and that was a pitch in 1935, and it still holds. Your Model 70 and other ones like the Model 700 have chambers made for this. But this round has the reputation for being a barrel burner because this rapid heat creation wears down the inside of the rifle barrel, specifically near the chamber, much faster than standard rounds. If I haven't mentioned yet, basically any rifle pushing extreme speed suffers from this. If you don't rapid fire till the barrel is red hot, then it lasts plenty long for normal hunting. 7.62 by 25 Tokarev. It was essentially the world's first modern personal defense weapon round before World War II. So if you ask who came first, was the 5.7 that the P90 shoots first, or this? Well, it was this one that came first. It's a Soviet pistol round with a long-pointed 7.6 2mm bullet in a bottleneck case. Essentially, it traded raw bullet width for extreme speed and penetration to fight body armors that standard 9mm or 45 would just bounce right off at around 1,500 feet a second, and it does something a pistol round is not supposed to be able to do. Guns like the TT-33, the PPSH can chamber this one, which you've seen in every film and game set on the Eastern Front. So in a nutshell, instead of always treating handguns and submachine guns as secondary, the Soviet military used this round in primary assault weapons. Then the famous 7.62 by 39 that the AK shoots came after to bridge the gap between the Tokarev and their overpowered 7.62 by 54R, but more on that in another video. 2.43 Winchester. This one is a 308 case, neck down to a 6mm bullet. The 308 has many kids all right, and this is one of them that didn't get a lot of love until you understand what it actually is. So think of it as the skinny 308 that doesn't kick as hard. If the number in inches sounds a bit odd to remember, it's just a damn 6mm. It's basically a round you can hand to a kid or a small lady without feeling like you just got tackled by a 270-pound linebacker. If you want to go a bit more technical, here you got the 30-06 and here's the 308. The 243 stands here as the most popular deer hunting rounds ever made up to 400 yards. The whole thing about the recoil is that people flinch. You start yanking the trigger because you know the punch is coming. If you can have a rifle that you flinch less, which is why a lot of experienced hunters will tell you they pick the 243. Also, ballistically speaking, it's also very close to the 6.5 Creedmoor that precision shooters love. The next one is the 223 Winchester Super Short Magnum. This one is an elephant rifle case cut down and squeezed to a 22 Varmint bullet. That's the most extreme necking down anyone has ever put in a fat stump, with roughly twice the powder behind the same bullet. Same projectile, but it has a way bigger shove. So what you have here is an elephant brass with a prairie dog bullet in it. If you show this to someone, almost no one at your typical range knows what this even is. While most rounds get identified in half a second, it's obnoxious to be next to. A little bullet, big powder charge. When one of these goes off, it's super loud and it makes people turn heads. 257 Weatherby Magnum. This one is a big Magnum case, neck down to a bullet you could hide under a dime. And it makes as much energy as a 30-06. It kills anything it hits. I'm not going to bore you with the velocity talk, but the cool thing about this massive round is that while it is a Magnum, its felt recoil is quiet manageable. If you put the 7mm Remington mag or the 300 Win mag next to it, this kicks way less, but this is also a barrel burner because it packs a lot of powder. 220 Russian. While everyone thinks the 5.4 5x39 looks like a neck-down 7.62 AK round, but that's not it. In fact, what got necked down from the AK round is the 220 Russian, or also known as the 5.6 by 39. So think of this as the Soviet Union hunting round, and they go in these guns shown on the screen. 7.63 by 25 Mauser. This one wasn't exactly neck down, but looks fairly close. It was from the 7.65 bore chart. It's the cartridge Germany fought 2 world wars with. They shrunk until it fit inside a hand grip, because having this is better than dealing with these slow revolvers. This is the round out of the Mauser C96 that killed the royal family of Russia, the Romanovs family. They were the ones that ruled Russia about 300 years. The king, the wife, and everyone else. And this was the round that ended it all. The 277 SIG Fury. This is the controversial 6.8 round that the U.S. Army was going to replace the 5.56 to basically have way higher chamber pressure to shoot it. So hot and ridiculously fast, designed to stop these modern level 4 body armors, supposedly equipped by China and Russia, shooting at armed threats past 400 and even up to 600 yards. So far, the only platforms they had were the SIG M7 and the XM250 to shoot this as a part of the next-gen squad weapon program. Even though it's not exactly a neck-down case, but it yields way more pressure than what the case can handle to get a higher velocity the same way other neck-down ones wanted the same. And you can learn more about that program right here.